Story time about my best friend dating my boyfriend without me knowing. Me and my bestie had been friends for 3 years. I put all my trust into her, but on one weekend my bestie was sleeping over at my house. But when she first walked through the door, I noticed that she was wearing my boyfriend's favorite jumper. I didn't think anything of it because she didn't know anything about my boyfriend. So I just brushed it off. A few hours later she was texting someone and then said she was leaving to go somewhere in an annoyed voice. I asked where she was going but she didn't answer. I was already starting to get pretty pissed off at her. Before I could say anything back to her, she slammed the door in my face. So the rest of the night I waited for her at home, and when she entered, she had a slight grin on her face. When I tried to lighten up the mood by saying hi, she totally just ignored me and threw herself onto my bed and kept giggling quietly. I couldn't take this anymore, so I stormed up the stairs into my room and immediately snatched her phone out of her little hands and went into Snapchat and Instagram DMs. She looked defeated and didn't even bother to try getting her. I felt a little bad for going on her phone without permission, but the fact she was ignoring me really dawned on me. As soon as I went to Instagram DMs, I saw that Lucas, known as my boyfriend and my ex-bestie now, we're flirting with each other and arranging dates and plane tickets to Hawaii and stupid shit. I screamed at the top of my lungs and told her how selfish and how bad of a friend she really was. I spilled my heart out about how much I loved him, and they both ruined it for me. The next minute, I kicked her out of my house and cried until I fell asleep. The next day, I broke up with Lucas and threw all his remaining things out of my house and happily burned them. That was about 2 years ago, but now I have a better boyfriend who is really nice, and I love his generosity, and I have great new besties who don't betray me and break my trust for them. If anyone does this to you, the best thing you should do is not be close with them anymore and find better people who treat you how you deserve to be treated and how they would want to be treated. Stay safe, everyone.
Story time! So yesterday my friends and I all went to the fair and there were 6 of us in total. And none of us wanted to have to worry about driving there and parking, so we just Ubered instead. So we left the fair around 11:15 and we walked to a nearby shopping center where the Uber picked us up about 10 minutes late. We ended up leaving at 11:30. We get in the Uber, the man says hello, and we head home the normal way. Everything's fine. And my parents don't like when I Uber, so they were tracking me on Life 360 from the moment I got in the car. After about 10 minutes in, I get a text from my mom and it said, "Where are you?" I look up from my phone and I realize I have no idea where we are, and Ubers know their directions, they know how to take you home. We were 20 minutes out of the way. So I'm terrified. My mom's texting me nonstop, literally about to call the police. I'm gonna run out of time, but posting part 2 today. Okay, back to the Uber story. Our parents are freaking out, we're texting each other in our group chat so he doesn't hear us. Also, while this was all happening, he wasn't talking to us, but he had an earbud in, and he was talking to someone on the phone really quietly. It was super creepy. My mom starts calling me again, and he hears the ring. And one of my friends pulled up on her phone the directions to get home, which he also heard, so he knew that we thought something was off. After a little while longer, we finally know where we are, so we feel a little bit better. We were getting really close to the turn that goes into my friend's neighborhood, and we were thinking, if he doesn't make this turn, we're screwed. Thank goodness he makes a turn and we're back at my friend's house.
I'm gonna tell you guys the story of how I was kicked out of my Spanish class in the first week of school. Okay, so I don't know if all schools do this, but in my school you had to take a foreign language class to graduate, and me, being the fluent Spanish speaker that I already am, decided to take Spanish. Not because it was easy, although that was part of it. I was already taking AP, ACE, and honors in all of my other classes. So I honestly just wanted a super easy class that I didn't have to think about. You know, no stress. and I could get that requirement out of the way. So picture this. It's the first day of school. I walk into class. Fate would have it that my very best friend from 8th grade was also in this class. When I saw her, we immediately started freaking out. Shout out to Emery. And she was so happy that I was going to be helping with her Spanish work and everything else. My Spanish teacher wasn't too happy about that. In fact, she asked me and 2 other girls who looked like me what we were doing there. And I honestly didn't know how to answer. I was kind of like, class, Spanish requirement, class. She said this would be way too easy for me. And you know what? She was right. Imagine trying to learn hello and how are you in a language you already know. But that was the point. That was the point, you know? I came in on Friday again, the first week of school, and she had a surprise for us. Look, this is part 2 on how I was kicked out of my Spanish class. And it was only the first week of school. So it was Friday and I walked in. I expected to hang out with my friend and learn how to say bien y tú. But instead, my teacher took me and 2 other students, separated us from the rest of the class, and made us take a Spanish 2 final exam. It was the first week of school! How dare she? My friend was like, oh my god, please fail it, please fail it, please fail it.
This is why you should never watch my videos before going to bed. In 1986, a young girl opens her closet to find a man wearing a dress and holding an axe. He grabs her and ties her up, and then walks around the house and does the same thing to the rest of her family. While the guy is ransacking their house, one of the kids breaks free, runs next door, and tells his neighbor. The neighbor calls the cops show up, the family's saved, but the guy is nowhere to be found. The family leaves the house and stays with relatives in hopes that they'll catch this guy before they have to go back. But after a few weeks, they haven't caught him, there aren't any leads, and they say, you know what, we'll go back to our house anyways. As the family's pulling back into their driveway, the father looks up at one of the windows and sees for a split second the head of the man with the dress in their bedroom. They call the police, who go in and find pennies glued to the ceiling and weird writing all over the house, but they can't find this crazy guy. Until one of the officers found a secret crawl space in the basement, where psychotic killer Danny LaPlante had been living for 2 months.
Crazy story time about how my mom kidnapped my sister. So my mom and dad split whenever I was really young. And at this time, they were always in and out of court battling for custody over my sister and I. Well, the one day my dad drives my mom downtown to the courthouse because she didn't have a ride. And before she gets out of the car, she's like, can I give the girls a hug? And my dad was like, yeah, go ahead. Little background information, I was more of a daddy's girl. My sister was more of a mommy's girl, which is probably the reason why she took her. I was sitting by the window, my sister was sitting in the middle seat. So she gives me a hug. Next thing I know, my sister's seatbelt was unbuckled and my mom was running across the street with her in the middle of downtown. Didn't even look for cars. So my dad got out of the car, ran over, grabbed her, picked both of them up, and walked over to the sidewalk, and my mom was screaming bloody murder. So this guy called the cops, and my dad was trying to show them custody papers because he had full custody. But the cop knew my mom, so he let her take my sister. We got her back, but I didn't see this bitch for like 4 months.